going to start with a new scene. Go to File menu. I'm going to choose New Scene. And then I'm going to choose Basic Built-in. And you'll notice a couple of things. I'm going to add a cube. This is the same thing that we do almost every time. But I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to make it look more like a floor. And then I'm going to add a couple of other shapes just so that we can see something being lit up. Great. So a couple of things that are pretty important when you start thinking about lighting in Unity is that there are objects that are lights that you can have in your scene, but then also there are camera settings that affect what your scene looks like. So for instance, right now, my default scene comes with a light in it, and it's a directional light. And a directional light just means that it's essentially infinitely lighting everything, but only in one direction. So this light, you can see I can change the color, I can change the intensity, but it's all coming from one direction, sort of at an infinite level. So if I want to get my scene totally dark, there's a few different things that I have to do. The first thing is that I have to delete any lights from my scene. But you can see that it's still not entirely dark. The other thing I want to point out is that sometimes there's a difference between the game view and the scene view. And the game view is going to be what your player sees when they run the game. So we want to get this view totally dark. And there's a few different settings we have to change. The first setting that we need to change is the ambient lighting in your scene, because by default, there's some ambient lighting in your scene. So I'm going to go to my window menu, and I'm going to choose lighting from the rendering menu. So window, rendering, and then lighting. And the lighting menu is going to have just a ton of settings because lighting is one of the most complex concepts and topics in Unity. But in order to sort of get rid of the ambient lighting in our scene, we need to do a few things. The first thing that I want to do is delete the skybox material. The skybox is sort of this image that's at an infinite distance that makes it look like there's a sky in your scene. But for some scenes, we may not want a skybox. So I'm going to delete that. And you can see that now I have sort of a blank gray scene here, including my objects. But you can see that I'm still seeing a blue background here. And there is still some, like it's not black, it's like a weird flat gray color. So I'm going to go back to my lighting window. And I want to change this ambient color to black. I could change it to whatever I want to. So I could have pink ambient lighting, for instance. But in this case, I want to change my ambient color to black because I want everything in my scene to appear black. So I can check my scene then by pressing play again, but I still have this weird blue background. So that is actually coming not from our lighting menu, but from our camera settings. So if I click on my main camera in my hierarchy, you'll see that one of the settings in my camera is background. And so the easiest thing to do is just click on background and change it to black. And then for now, I can ignore most of these other settings, but there's a ton of settings in the camera as well, and we may talk about those later. So now if I press play, you can see that my scene is totally black, and I can start adding lights to make a more atmospheric scene. So for instance, I may want to add a point light, and then I can turn the intensity of my point light way down so that it's spooky. I might want to make it blue. Spooky. Turn the intensity way down. And then if I run my scene, you can see that now I have just a teensy little bit of visibility over here in my scene. So hopefully that covers everything. Lighting is just an extremely complex topic in Unity. Don't be afraid to ask more questions if you need to, but hopefully that'll get you started.